We are in Kochel, in south of Germany, and I'm sitting here with Judith Hemming, and she is an experienced facilitator, 26 years by now. So we just have some questions. So how are you?
I'm very well.
Good. Actually, I was saying yesterday to her that I love her voice so much, so I hope you enjoy as well, as much as I do.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so the first question I'm asking, like a lot of constellations practitioners, is how would you explain constellations, or like what does constellations mean to you? Because it seems that a lot of us have a hard time explaining it. So.
Well, I'm sure it depends a lot who you're explaining it to, because there are people who have some notion of the field and of the interconnectedness between people, and of the fact that this remarkable capacity to be able to have the dynamics around your situation animate. That's such a strange concept for some people, and in which case, if I'm working in a more kind of corporate field or something like that, I would suggest something a little bit less startling, that we could map the dynamics, and that they would have the opportunity to stand back, and that they might benefit from knowing something about some of these sort of deep patterns about what makes human systems fall into balance and rest, and which ones set up a lot of unease. So I could do it as simply as that. And obviously when I'm teaching, then explaining it becomes more of a way of looking both at the methodology and of what it means to be a facilitator of the methodology, which is a little bit different, really.
What's the difference? Like, if you would put it in...
Well, in a way, the methodology is rather straightforward. You can set up anything, and you can get information. But the sort of the rather precious energies that emerge out of it, which often have quite a sacred feel, they open up the possibility of change in a way that's different from an ordinary conversation or a group process. I think that requires the development of quite hard-won practices and abilities on the part of the facilitator, because it's hard to be phenomenologically accurate, to really look at something and not place an interpretation on it, but to see if the way you describe it begins to let it give you more information. It's really a question of who's in charge of the information. So I think there are lots and lots of different ways of talking about it, and it really depends on whether the person who's listening is on their own journey into constellations, or whether they just want to know something about the methodologies so that they can see whether it's something that could help them with a particular issue. And probably there are sort of people who are philosophically or politically interested in the idea of influence at a distance and where knowledge is stored and all those kinds of things.
Okay, and so in September, I believe it's like there's the ISCA conference, and so I'm also very intrigued with the interrelations in the international field of constellators. So if I would ask you, like, how do you feel connected to the other people at work?
Well, because I've been teaching at what was Bernried, it was now Kochel, for such a long time, there was a kind of process that developed whereby people came from all over the world who were trying to develop constellations in their country, and if they liked the contribution made by the facilitators here, they would invite them. So my connection to the international world has come a lot from having been invited by people who've watched me work, which has been an absolutely miraculous opportunity to get to know countries and to get to know the world and to get to know the history of communities and so on in a different kind of way. So I have been on you know, had a lot to do with some parts of the world,
Mhm.
some parts of Latin America, obviously lots of parts of Europe, a little bit in China and Japan and Australia. I mean, I feel as if I've been given free airfares,
Oh, yeah.
not first class, to many countries where
Mhm.
this work has taken off, and it's been lovely to be part of a community of people who are supporting those very dedicated practitioners.
And what do they support? What's the essence of that?
Well, I think different facilitators support different things.
Mhm.
And whether you intend to have a specialism or not, people attribute specialisms to you. So, because I used to be a teacher of literature and language, and I don't know if it's really because of that, but I have a great interest in the accompanying language of the work,
Mhm.
and of how you can use sentences in a sort of ritual way to not just have a visual image of what's happening in a constellation, but actually to sort of surface truths and begin to create a movement towards people being in a better place and more connected and more resolved with something. So I think my contribution has probably been a lot to do with the languaging of the work and the sort of beauty that comes out of the sounds as well as the pictures, if you like.
And that's a great bridge to the last question, which is if you look at the movement of the constellation work, and like every sort of industry or practice has their own development, as it were. What do you see as the next development, or what would be your invitation for practitioners around the world to be more of or less of, or to be aware of, or like an invitation to grow in a certain direction, maybe that you would invite?
Well, it's such a diverse community around the world now.
Mhm.
I would think almost everything is being represented.
Yeah.
But because it's been growing rather fast, what it seems to be difficult for people to do is to get enough feedback and supervision,
Right,
and
yeah.
to continue their own deep personal work to make them reliable. So I have a feeling that there are quite a lot of people doing this work who are under-supported, who don't have a mirror shown up to them in such a way that they are really able to do it sort of responsibly and well, and who are not on a personal journey. Not because they don't want to be, but because somehow, if you think about the field of psychotherapy, you have to have supervision,
Yeah.
because it's all part of the regulatory process.
Yeah.
We don't have a regulatory process.
Yeah.
And so I think there are probably constellators who are who could be helped to be more safe and to go more deeply into it. Ongoing learning about constellation, because the economic climate is less friendly now. It used to be that people did incredibly intense trainings. Certainly in your country they did.
Yeah.
But because everything is more expensive now, people aren't, trying to say, well, I've done a weekend or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not enough, because it's an incredibly demanding occupation being a constellator, for me anyway.
Yeah.
It feels like it uses everything I've ever learned in every direction. And I would terribly miss not being able to talk about the work with my colleagues. And I have a feeling that there probably isn't quite enough of that humble sharing and learning together once you've stopped being a student.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything you're particularly excited about, like just to close it all off? Like something that you think, yeah, that's like excites my heart, like from having seen so much, having done so much.
Well, I feel incredibly friendly towards the whole world of constellations. and very, very confident actually that it's just going on expanding in lots of different directions.
Yeah.
I'm particularly happy that I'm doing quite a bit of theatre work at the moment, and I love that.
Yeah.
But I am withdrawing because I'm in my 70th year.
That's why I didn't shave, so you would look a
A
little bit younger.
older. So in a way I feel like I'm already in the process of handing my trust over to other generations. Feeling very grateful.
Yes, I know, and I'm filming.
Pleased.
Sorry. So maybe the last bit.
Well, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I feel trusting that this movement is a very good movement and it will go on happening, and it's given me a great deal, and now it's probably time for me to be sort of called elsewhere. So that's what I'm trying to do. Not that I'm stopping everything. I'm not whizzing around the world quite so much.
Great. All right. Thanks for the interview.
You're very welcome.
And well, see you in class.